My name is Brielle. I'm 17, and sometimes I feel like I don't exist in my own family. My parents make plans, take decisions, and live their lives as if my voice doesn't matter. I laugh when they laugh, stay quiet when they argue, and hide my dreams because no one ever asks about them. I thought this was my place in life, just to stay invisible. But I was wrong. Because at the retreat hotel, something happened that even I could never have imagined. The entire lobby fell silent. People stared, and my parents, who had always ignored me, gasped when the hotel manager bowed to me. That single moment turned my world upside down. It started a week before the retreat. I was in the kitchen, half listening while my parents talked over breakfast. They were excited, their voices brighter than usual, going on about a weekend at some luxury retreat. A hotel with mountain views, spas, private dinners, the kind of place that sounded like a dream. For a second, my heart actually lifted. Maybe this time they'd include me. Maybe for once I wouldn't be left behind. But then Mom looked at me and shook her head. "Brielle, this isn't really for kids. You'd be bored there." "Exactly," Dad added. "It's more of an adult thing. You wouldn't fit in." Just like that, the hope I'd been holding on to shattered. I wanted to argue, to say I wasn't a little kid anymore. I was 17, practically an adult myself. But the way they said it, so casual, so final, made me swallow my words. Still, the sting was sharp, burning deep in my chest. I sat there, pushing food around my plate, pretending not to care. But inside I was boiling, angry, hurt, invisible all over again. They kept talking about their trip like I wasn't even in the room, and all I could think was, why am I never enough for them? That morning, something inside me shifted. I didn't know what I'd do yet, but I knew one thing for sure. This time, I wasn't going to just sit quietly and be left behind. When my parents left the kitchen that morning, I stayed behind, staring at the empty plates. Their words kept echoing in my head. Too young. Wouldn't fit in. The truth was, I did have a world of my own, a secret one they never cared to ask about. Ever since I was a little girl, I've been in love with drawing. Not the kind of doodles you make in the corner of a notebook, but real sketches. Faces, places, emotions frozen in pencil strokes. For me, art wasn't just a hobby. It was the only place I felt seen. On paper, I could pour out everything I couldn't say out loud. But my parents? They never really noticed. If they did, it was only with a polite smile and a quick, "That's nice, Brielle," before moving on. They never asked why I stayed up late with charcoal smudges on my fingers, or why I carried a sketchbook everywhere I went. What they didn't know was that I'd entered a national art competition online. My hands had been shaking when I uploaded my best piece, a portrait I'd drawn late at night with tears in my eyes. I didn't tell anyone, not even my closest friends. It was my secret, my tiny rebellion against being invisible. A week later, I got an email that changed everything. My artwork had been chosen for display at an exclusive event, an event hosted at, of all places, the very same retreat hotel my parents were so excited about. I remember reading the message over and over, my heart racing. My drawing would be hanging in the hotel's gallery hall, where artists from all over the country were being recognized. And no one in my family had any idea. For 2 days, I kept the secret locked inside me. I walked through the house like nothing had changed, but inside, my chest was buzzing with fire. My parents were busy planning their trip, talking about spa treatments and dinners under the stars, while I carried the biggest news of my life. And they didn't have a clue. Every night, I sat with my sketchbook in my lap, staring at the email on my phone. My name, my artwork, displayed in the retreat hotel. It felt unreal. And yet, if I didn't go, it would stay invisible, just like me. That thought scared me more than anything. What if I let this chance slip away? What if no one ever saw what I could really do? For a while, I imagined telling my parents. Maybe they'd be proud. Maybe they'd finally look at me differently. But then I pictured their usual reactions, dismissive, distracted, a quick pat on the shoulder, and my stomach tightened. No, I couldn't risk it. Not this time. So I made up my mind. I was going. I didn't know how yet. Maybe I'd sneak out, maybe I'd convince my cousin Rachel to come with me. Maybe I'd find some excuse to be there on my own. The plan wasn't clear, but the decision was. For the first time, I felt a strange kind of courage swelling in me. Fear was still there. Fear of being caught. Fear of disappointing my parents even more. But behind it was something stronger. The need to finally be seen. And that need was louder than my fear. The morning I left, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I'd packed my sketchbook, a change of clothes, and the email printout folded neatly inside my bag. It felt like I was carrying my whole life in that small backpack. I took the bus from downtown, my heart pounding as I climbed the steps and dropped my coins into the slot. The driver barely glanced at me, but I felt like every passenger was staring, as if they knew I wasn't supposed to be there. The bus rumbled to life, and the city slowly gave way to winding roads and rolling hills. Out the window, I watched the world blur by, neighborhoods fading into fields, fields stretching into open skies. The further we went, the quieter it became, like the noise of my old life was finally slipping away. I pressed my forehead against the glass, trying to calm the storm inside me. Excitement and fear kept crashing into each other. Part of me was terrified. What if my parents found out? What if I got lost? What if I wasn't good enough and the whole thing turned into a disaster? But then, another part of me whispered, "This is your chance." For the first time in my life, I was doing something completely on my own. No one telling me I was too young, no one making decisions for me, just me, a backpack, and the road ahead. By the time the bus turned onto the mountain route, my nerves had settled into something else. Something I couldn't quite name. It was like stepping out of childhood and into a new world, one that was bigger, scarier, but full of possibility. And deep down, I knew there was no turning back. The bus slowed as we curved around the hillside, and suddenly, there it was, the Retreat Hotel. It didn't look like a building. It looked like a palace dropped right into the mountains. Glass windows sparkled in the sunlight, balconies wrapped around every floor, and tall pine trees lined the drive, V-way-like guards standing at attention. My breath caught in my throat. Clutching my bag, I stepped off the bus and walked toward the entrance. The doors were massive, golden handles gleaming, and the moment I pushed through them, the world changed. The lobby stretched out like something from a dream. A chandelier glittered above me, so huge it looked like it could hold 1,000 stars. Marble floors shone under my sneakers, and polished wood columns reached all the way up to the ceiling. The air smelled faintly of roses and something expensive I couldn't name. Men in sharp suits and women in elegant dresses moved gracefully across the lobby, their heels clicking softly on the floor. Staff members in crisp uniforms wheeled silver carts, speaking in low, polite voices. And then there was me. In my plain jeans and hoodie, holding a backpack that suddenly felt embarrassingly small, I stuck out like a stain on a perfect painting. My stomach twisted. People glanced at me. Quick looks, raised brows, like they were wondering if I was lost. Maybe I was. I tightened my grip on my sketchbook and tried to breathe. This was it. The place where my art hung on a wall, waiting to be seen. The place where, for the first time, I might finally matter. But standing there in the middle of all that beauty, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I didn't belong here after all? I walked up to the front desk, my sneakers squeaking against the marble floor. The receptionist looked flawless. Her hair tied in a sleek bun, her smile polished like she had practiced it in a mirror. But the moment her eyes landed on me, that smile flickered. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice polite but edged with suspicion. I swallowed, suddenly aware of my hoodie and scuffed backpack. Yes, I'm here for the art exhibition. My name is Brielle." She blinked, then glanced me up and down, her eyes sharp. "Are you sure you're in the right place?" The words hit harder than I expected. Behind me, I heard a soft laugh. Two women in pearl necklaces whispering to each other as they walked past. Another man gave me a look like I had wandered in off the wrong street. Heat crept up my neck. I got an email," I stammered, pulling out the folded paper from my bag. My hand shook so badly the edges rattled. The receptionist didn't even look at it right away. She just sighed, tapping her manicured nails on the counter. "You'll have to wait. We're very busy." Her tone made it clear. To her, I didn't belong here. I stepped back, my chest tight. the email still clutched in my hand. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe coming here had been the dumbest idea of my life. For a moment, I thought about turning around, walking out the doors, and catching the next bus home. I could already imagine my parents' voices. See? You weren't ready. You didn't belong there. And for a split second, I almost believed them. I was seconds away from leaving when a deep, steady voice cut through the air. What seems to be the problem here? The receptionist straightened instantly. Everyone around turned as a tall man in a tailored black suit walked across the lobby. His presence alone shifted the room. Broad shoulders, silver hair neatly combed back, eyes sharp yet calm. This wasn't just another staff member. This was the hotel manager. The receptionist quickly explained, "This young guest says she's here for the art exhibition, but Before she could finish, the manager's gaze landed on me. His eyes widened slightly, and then, to my absolute shock, he smiled. "Brielle," he said, my name rolling off his tongue with surprising warmth. I froze. How did he know me? Without hesitation, he stepped forward, and then, right there, in front of the guests, the staff, and the sparkling chandelier above us, he bowed. Yes, bowed. The manager of this grand hotel, the man who commanded respect from everyone in the room, bowed to me like I was someone important. Gasps rippled through the lobby. I heard a woman whisper, "Who is she?" Another man actually set down his drink, staring like he couldn't believe it. The receptionist's jaw nearly hit the desk. And me? My heart was hammering so loud I thought the whole lobby could hear it. For the first time in my life, the world wasn't looking past me. It was looking directly at me. The silence that followed was broken by a wave of hushed voices. Did he just bow to her? Who is that girl? She can't be important, can she? Guests leaned closer to each other, whispering in disbelief, their eyes darting toward me as if I had suddenly turned into someone extraordinary. Even the staff, maids, bellboys, waiters in crisp white uniforms, stood frozen, unsure whether to continue working or just stare. I shifted on my feet, my palms clammy. A moment ago, I was invisible, just a girl in plain clothes who didn't belong. Now every eye in the room was on me, and then my heart almost stopped. Standing near the entrance were my parents. They had just walked in, or maybe they had been there for a while, quietly watching. Either way, the look on their faces said it all. Shock, confusion, and something else. Pride, maybe. Though buried beneath disbelief, my father's lips parted slightly, as if he wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. My mother's hand was pressed against her chest, her eyes wide, glistening under the golden lobby lights. The roles had reversed in the blink of an eye. For years, I was the shadow in their world, the quiet, ordinary daughter no one noticed. Now, in the heart of this dazzling hotel, I was the center of attention, the girl everyone wanted to know, and for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink away from it. The whispers still buzzed in the background, but for me, the entire world narrowed down to two faces. My parents, they marched toward me, their steps sharp and urgent. My father's jaw was tight, his eyes flashing with anger he couldn't hide. My mother clutched her purse so hard her knuckles turned white. "What on earth are you doing here?" my father hissed, his voice low but heavy with fury. "You had no right sneaking off like this. Do you realize how dangerous, how foolish?" "Enough!" I snapped, surprising even myself. My voice trembled, not with fear, but with years of swallowed hurt. "Enough pretending to care now when you never listened before." My mother blinked, her anger faltering. "We only wanted to protect you." "No!" I cut her off, my chest heaving. "You wanted to silence me. You wanted me to stay small, stay invisible, because it was easier for you than actually seeing me for who I am." Gasps rippled through the lobby, but I didn't care. My words, the ones I had buried for so long, poured out like fire. "Do you have any idea what it feels like?" I said, voice cracking. "To dream so hard and never be taken seriously? To be treated like I don't matter? You never believed in me. You never even tried." My father's face softened, his anger melting into confusion. My mother's lips trembled as if she wanted to deny it. but couldn't. For the first time, they were speechless. And for the first time, I wasn't. I had found my voice. Before the silence could choke me, the manager stepped forward. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, turning to the crowd, "allow me to explain why this young woman deserves every ounce of respect." He looked at me, then back at everyone else. The artwork displayed in our grand gallery, the one that has drawn so much praise from critics and visitors alike, was created by her. This girl. A ripple of shock swept through the lobby. Guests exchanged stunned looks, some covering their mouths, others whispering her name as if tasting it for the first time. "She entered the competition anonymously," the manager continued. "Her piece was chosen over hundreds from around the country. We are honored to host her work here in this very retreat. She may be young, but her talent is undeniable." And then it happened. Applause. It started with a single pair of hands, then grew, filling the marble lobby with a thunderous sound. People I had never met were clapping for me, smiling at me, as if I mattered. I felt tears prick my eyes. For once, I wasn't invisible. I was seen. I glanced at my parents. My mother's lips parted, her eyes wide with disbelief. My father lowered his gaze, guilt flickering across his face. For the first time, they weren't looking past me. They were truly looking at me. And in their silence, I knew they were realizing the truth. They had underestimated me all along. For the first time in my life, I stood tall, no longer the shadow in my own family's story, but the light. The applause slowly faded, but its echo stayed inside me. I felt stronger, steadier, like my feet were finally planted where they belonged. I wasn't just their daughter anymore. I was me. My father stepped closer, his voice lower, almost broken. I didn't know," he admitted, his eyes glistening. "I never realized how much I ignored you. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now. I was only holding you back." My mother reached out, hesitating, then finally took my hand. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We should have listened. We should have seen you sooner." Their words weren't perfect. They didn't erase the years of silence. But for once, they weren't dismissing me. They weren't brushing me aside. They were trying. And that was enough for now. I breathed deeply, letting the moment sink in. All of this, every gasp, every bow, every clap, it had started with one bold choice, one decision to step out of the shadows and claim my place. I had walked into the retreat as a girl no one believed in, but I was walking out as someone the world finally saw. And most importantly, someone who finally saw herself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You can't wait for people to hand you permission to be who you are. For years, I let myself believe I was invisible, just a quiet shadow behind my parents' voices, their choices, their plans. But the truth is, I was never invisible. I just hadn't stepped into my own light yet. That day at the retreat changed everything. Not because of the applause, or the bow, or the stares, but because I finally realized my worth had never depended on anyone else's approval. It was mine all along. Yes, my parents underestimated me. Yes, it hurt, but their doubts don't define me anymore. My courage does. My belief in myself does. I'm not the girl who sits silently in the corner, hoping to be noticed. I'm the girl who walked into a room full of strangers and walked out knowing, truly knowing, that I mattered. I'm no longer invisible, and I never will be again.